Just stepping out here real quick to show you guys something. You know what this is? Daylight. That's right, boys and girls. We did it. Daytime schedule achieved. Got off the nighttime schedule for now. I plan on staying on this schedule for at least a week. Not that 3 o'clock is some amazing achievement by any means, but hey, for me it's pretty good. Also been up for quite a few hours already. Actually got up at 9 a.m. today. Did some emailing, did some messaging, did some behind the scenes vlog work. All right, time to get to it. Let's get in there. Wrapping it up over here. Actually gonna move on and go check out the wind real quick. Games over here were surprisingly not that great. Friday evening, Super Bowl weekend. Expected more. Thanks. So yeah, moving on. Like I said, games were very mediocre at best. I'd be willing to bet that they're going to get better as it gets later and later. But I'm going to stick to this daytime schedule for at least a little bit. I'm not ready to sacrifice the work that I put in there, the 19-hour session, just to go right back to that nighttime schedule just yet. But yeah, gonna go look at the win. But I mean, I guess there's a few hands that are worth discussing, but we can just move through these pretty quickly here. So hand number 1, middle position limps. I over limp with pocket 4s. You could raise. I just decided to limp along because if I don't hit a set, I'm probably not gonna see bet. So I mean, you do build a pot for when you do hit a set, which is always good, but I guess I just took the low variance route and limped along. The small blind calls and the big blind checks, so we go 4 ways. Flop is 7-5-4, so now obviously, wish I had raised. 7-5-4 with 2 diamonds. So the blinds check and the middle position limper puts out a bet of 50. Pretty big bet considering the pot is only 40, but could go both ways, could raise or could flat. I decided to just flat because I'm thinking that if I raise, am I ever getting the money in that good if he decides to put in a 3-bet on the flop? I guess if the blinds happen to have some sort of a draw, I price that out. But if I raise the flop, it's unlikely that I'm getting the money in versus just like 1 pair type hand. I think his get in range is probably combo draws, sets, straights, naked flush draws. That's about it. I don't know how good bottom set is doing against that range. I guess 2 pairs could be in there as well. I decided to just flat. The small blind calls as well, and the big blind folds. So we go 3 ways to a turn. Turn is an offsuit jack. This time they both check to me, so now I feel very confident that I have the best hand. I put in a bet of 140. Both players make the call. So seems like we're probably up against a couple draws here. River's an offsuit 8, and they both check to me. Doesn't seem like I'll be able to get too much value here. There's 4 to a straight on board now. I'm not sure if 2 pair will make a call here. I mean, I could bet maybe like a tiny bet and hope to get a crying call from 2 pair, but I just decided to check it. I check back, and the small blind shows 9-6 offsuit. Makes the straight on the river, doesn't bet it for unknown reasons, but he's gonna get the pot regardless, so he wins, we lose. Next hand, somewhat of note. There's one player who posts in late position who missed the blind. So it folds to him, he checks, and it folds to the button, who raises up to 40. I look down at ace queen offsuit in the big blind, and I put in a 3-bet. I think ace queen should be ahead of his range here, so I put in a 3-bet to 150. Out of position, trying to win it pre-flop, but happy to play post-flop as well. Folds back to the button, who makes the call. So we go heads up to 8-8-4 with 2 clubs. I decided to check it. I don't know if I'm gonna ever get better to fold here. In fact, I'm pretty sure I won't. So I just decided to check, and he puts out a bet. He bets 180. I think it's a little bit too weak to give up here. We have the backdoor nut flush draw. We could definitely have the best hand here still. So I make the call. Turn is an offsuit king. Don't really like that card. It hits a lot of his bluffing range, and if he does happen to have a king, it's gonna be very hard for us to ever make the best hand here. So I check, and this time he bets 300. I'm done with it. I have the ace of clubs, so I'm blocking some of his flush draw barreling type hands. So sure, he could still have some bluffs in there. He could have like 6-7, 5-6 type hands, but I'm not looking to call down 3 streets with ace high here, so I give it up and make the fold. By the way, the player in that hand, my opponent, he's a total gambling degenerate. Just total degenerate. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. He actually wanted me to call him that in the vlog. He wanted me to refer to him as that. So I would never say that about somebody that I didn't know or wasn't expecting to be called that in a friendly, joking manner. But whatever. Screw that guy. Last hand of note. We look down at 2 kings. 2 kings from under the gun. 2 red kings. Pretty sweet, huh? Just 2 fat red kings under the gun. $30 to go. Under the gun plus 2 calls. The player in middle position makes it 80. A rather small raise, you might say. He's only got about $700 total. Now it folds to the big blind, who just happens to be a total gambling degenerate. Again, same player as before. He puts in a 4-bet. He makes it $300. It's a little bit awkward on several fronts because, like I said, the player who made it 80 to go, that player only has 700. So it's pretty unlikely for the big blind to be bluffing here, like putting in some sort of a 4-bet bluff, because he's probably going to have to call it off if the player in middle position shoves all in over his $300 bet. So it's very unlikely that he has a weak hand or even like a ace queen type hand. Ace queen has to be the bottom. Ace queen suited has to be the bottom of his range. We block ace king, we double block ace king, so it's a little sketchy of a situation. I don't really want a flat call. It just kind of screams strength here. Although maybe it's not the worst play, because if we flat call and then it folds back to the player with $700, then he jams all in. I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to go with the hand at that point. I fully expect the big blind to then overshove, and then we would obviously call. Not really sure what's the best play there. Maybe could flat, but if the player in middle position doesn't jam, then I don't know. Little strange situation here, to say the least. But I decided to stick it in. Folds back to middle position, who thinks for quite a while, but then he folds. He hangs onto his cards so he can show all of us. Big blind snap calls, a little bit worrisome, but I ask him if he has aces, and he says no, he has pocket kings. So we decided to run it twice, and we end up chopping that one. The first board ran out queen high, and the player in middle position had pocket queens. So if in hindsight, looking, being a little bit results oriented, the player in middle position, if I flat, was probably coming along and would have won some money off of us, but that's not what happened. I jammed all in pre-flop like a genius to force him out and deny him any equity in that pot. Yep, played it perfect. So yeah, we chopped that one, and that's by far the best hand I had, pocket kings, the entire time. I had pocket fours one other time. I had ace king a couple times and whiffed. So add all that up, and that's just another $1,000 in the hole over the course of, I don't know, 5 hours or so. Not that good of a streak in the Bellagio 510, but that's the way it goes. Not exactly a massive loss, one buy-in. It's just not fun losing $1,000. So whatever, what can you do? I'm gonna go inside here, inside the Wynn, see what's happening. Not planning on staying super long, which means we'll probably be here for another 19 hours. Let's go check it out. Shout outs galore, by the way. Shout outs galore. Shout out to Tom, the ice cream man. I met Tom. Remember him from Mail on the Couch? I met Tom. Shout out to Rich. Had a good chat with him today. Shout out to Nick, and shout out to Elliot. Wrapping up the mini session. Currently 5:10 once again. Looked fairly mediocre. I actually didn't even play it. I played PLO, the great game, you might know it as. Played 1-2-5 PLO for a couple hours or whatever. Really nothing to report. Kind of a slow day one to Super Bowl weekend here. So plan tonight is go home, go to bed almost immediately. Tomorrow, get back out here on the strip at a reasonable hour. Oh, by the way, I lost $13 in the PLO game. So like I said, really nothing to report. Nothing that interesting, no interesting hands. A little bit slow. All right, gonna get back after it tomorrow.